The Phoenix Suns put together a very, very impressive process on both ends of the floor, specifically in the first quarter to second quarter stretch of their win over the Cleveland Cavaliers from last night. And it was in particular from the 7:52 mark of the first quarter to the 5:24 mark of the second quarter. The Suns went from a 12-12 tie to outscoring the Cleveland Cavaliers 56-30. 56-30. That is a prolific stretch over the course of a game. The run in which I've always been speaking to over the course of this season that they can compile when they put forth their process on both ends and they have the attention to detail and the flow to allow for both sides to play off of one another. You saw that in that stretch of the game, and that was essentially what bust the game open, and they never saw their lead diminish to less than 10 the rest of the way. So I want to talk about some of the things we saw in that particular window of the game and just kind of highlight some of the things that I see that are sustainable, some of the things that are continuing to show up on consistency, and some of the ways in which they can improve a little bit as well. So let's just kind of dive into the film on that specific stretch and how it plays forward going for the Suns down this home stretch of the regular season. Thanks again for tapping in with another video of mine. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also leave a like, and also feel free to comment. Always down to talk hoop, whether it's specific to this film session or this game or just generally about basketball. Feel free to leave comments always. So without further ado, let's dive into the film session. All right, first play we're going to be looking at taking place on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going to be watching for the Suns just keeping up with their movement in action. So we're seeing this time it's not even taking place with a specific or particular set or just general concept happening. This is just kind of play and flow and read and react. You see that getting into the offense, crossing the half-court line at 20 seconds. And as they're flowing into action, we see Royce O'Neal just kick it to the backside. And he's going to kind of chase his pass and allow for his momentum to kind of take him into, obviously, where the ball is, with Kevin Durant being guarded by Jarrett Allen above the break. And what we're going to pay attention to is the spacing for the Suns as we see Yusuf Nurkic get out of there as Evan Mobley's guarding him. And we see Royce O'Neal kind of going towards where the ball is. Look at the ghost screen that he's setting. And look at the reaction that this is ultimately generating for the Suns in their half-court action. And you see, obviously, the result coming from Bradley Beal, a wide-open catch-and-shoot opportunity in rhythm from the short corner. But as we bring it back, we'll make sure we pay attention to just the many values that Royce O'Neal brings. We talk about, specifically me, all of the value that he brings to the defensive side of the floor in IQ and feel and preemptive communication, always being an early help player, activity with the hands, the anticipation, the ability to dictate with physicality, guard on multiple positions, all of that fun stuff. And also looking at the offensive side, a lot of the values that he brings stems from the IQ and his feel for space, which I feel is, especially for role players, essential to being able to perform around the likes of top-end talents, especially the likes that the Suns have in terms of gravity and the attention that they generally can hold. And in this specific context of offense, looking at Royce O'Neal, this ghost screen just completely burns the coverage that the Cleveland Cavaliers are in. And this is an issue that dates back to, for them in particular, their matchup with the New York Knicks in the first round last season. People and teams in general bringing their smaller guards and Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell into action and forcing them to defend in scenarios where they don't necessarily want to switch, with bigger guards, if not forwards, that are versatile and skilled, the likes of Kevin Durant. Royce O'Neal giving them yet another rep in trying to work through those scenarios in real time. And we see just that brings Donovan Mitchell into action. They obviously don't want to switch this if they don't have to. So he's in show and recover, trying to show to allow for Jarrett Allen to navigate over or around the screen from Royce O'Neal and to keep the matchup solid. And he's going to try to rotate back from showing on Kevin Durant to recovering on Royce O'Neal. But because of the tempo, the cadence at which, and the timing at which everything is occurring in terms of Royce O'Neal working to burn the coverage, he's able to create a new pace, new tempo, new advantage. Defensive dominoes fall in favor of the Suns. Wide open three for Bradley Beal, and that's cash. And then next play here, we're going to see a little bit more of the same from Royce O'Neal. Again, the movement. When things start to stagnate, who's going to be able to move and create new tempo, new pace, create a new advantage for the Suns to play in without allowing for the defense to stay completely set and for the defense to obviously flip the advantage that might have been created into getting reset. And we see Royce O'Neal being key to that component here. So we see play breaks down. There's nothing going on. Everybody just kind of standing around looking. There's literally nothing going on offense right now. And they're trying to set up shop to get something going. We're already at the 14-point mark in the shot clock. Nothing's happened. Who's going to step up and make something happen? Insert Royce O'Neal. And we see him getting back into another ghost screen. So we see him kind of flying in. Donovan Mitchell's already a little bit lagging behind. He's still in a little bit of short recover, not unlike we saw in this previous rep with Kevin Durant, as he is here with Devin Booker. Just wanted to make sure he doesn't turn the corner. But the issue is, because of how well Royce O'Neal moves in this action, and you see him be able to generate a reaction advantage off of tempo this time, creating separation from Donovan Mitchell. It doesn't get the same reaction on ball that the last rep did. This is still good because it gets them moving, again, ahead of where the defense is, moving the chains a little bit on offense. And as we see on the relocation to the top side, Royce O'Neal has more than enough space to catch, gather, lace him up from dead on, let it fly, and knock it down. And these little values that Royce O'Neal brings with just his general feel, his understanding of spacing, how to occupy it, how to manipulate it, and his general IQ and just feel for everything that he does on offense is so connective for the Suns. And it's something that they can certainly lean into a little bit more in terms of the food that's left on the table and how they can diversify his usage and ultimately diversify the offense in which they're using come playoff time. I think that's when it's going to be most important. Now looking at some of the defense from the Suns here, got Royce O'Neal chasing over the Iversons from Max Strus. And then we're going to see the Suns be solid initially here, doing a great job just keeping actions flattened out, not over aggressive in any capacity, but just doing enough to stay attached to the ball and contain it. Job well done early, flips to the second side, and we're going to see the Suns, again, doing a decent enough job defensively. But as I pause it right here, we see what's happening on the second side. Now revert your attention to the backside. We got Kevin Durant, who's the low man right now, and we got Devin Booker, who's ultimately is going to be around the elbow area. Watch the preemptive communication from Devin Booker with Kevin Durant. And this is a way in which I gauge how locked in Devin Booker is. Because when he's locked in on defense, he's preemptive with his communication. He's always communicating whether he's the low man or letting somebody else know, you're the low man, I got the two side, ready to play two off of that, should the pass go out. Those little things like that add up, especially when you start getting to these games that grow more meaningful, going against teams that are in the hierarchy of the Western Conference. And we see just that here, obviously against the Cavaliers. Nonetheless, the preemptive communication action hasn't even occurred yet on the second side. But Devin Booker's already anticipating, and his communication is preemptive. And that's allowing for Kevin Durant to go ahead and get into his rotation a whole lot sooner than if it wasn't necessarily communicated. So as we see Max Strus get the pitch from Evan Mobley and then start to try to turn downhill, Kevin Durant's already timing up whether he needs to step in with help. Ultimately, he does, as containment is broke a little bit at the point of attack with Royce O'Neal. And because Kevin Durant's able to be, instead of being too early to where he has to reset the 2-9 and ultimately is out of position, times it up perfectly to when he enters the paint, he's able to enter with a full 3 seconds of occupying help to support Royce O'Neal. But in addition to that, the timing and the string at which he's going into his rotation, as well as Devin Booker sliding down to play two with more leverage, ultimately nets Devin Booker with the perfect opportunity and syncing up with the rotation to help the helper. And his sync rotation is just it's perfect. It's perfect. And again, these are the little things that the Suns have to nail in terms of their defensive process. Those are non-negotiables. And Devin Booker is a huge piece in all that they're trying to do, especially with, again, his preemptive communication. Something we see from Royce O'Neal consistently, something we see also from Thaddeus Young when he gets minutes. Devin Booker, since the Christmas Day game against the Dallas Mavericks, has been great with that. And we see just that here. And then here, getting back to the offensive side of the floor, we're seeing another Kevin Durant post-up touch. And again, this is just speaking to a little bit of the improved process with the Suns, but just even more so than that, just looking at how they're working around that action. So we see Kevin Durant get the post-up. Again, it's stagnant. There's not too much going on the backside. We see a little bit of loading up and help from that low block as we see Evan Mobley jumping over the help line to show and support in that driving lane. And we obviously see Karis LeVert a pass away to the top side at the strong side elbow spaced off of Devin Booker. He's not going to leave too far. Nonetheless, this play isn't even going to go his direction. So as we look at the ball, we're just going to be watching Yusuf Nurkic. So we see, obviously, this is the Cleveland Cavaliers going with just one big here. Got Max Strus, who is going to be on the inside part of Yusuf Nurkic, closer to the basket. And we want to pay attention to how Yusuf Nurkic is working in this action, because this is important to just kind of see where he is and how he's just dominating things on the glass and in the paint. All right, boom. So right away we see on the shot from Kevin Durant to come, automatically getting into positioning. This is where Yusuf Nurkic hurts teams. You're playing a somewhat smaller center that's a little bit more frail in the backside. That's going to leave Nurkic with opportunities to dictate to the legal limit with physicality, a la Monty Williams, but also just move furniture. This rebound doesn't necessarily bounce right to him, and Evan Mobley has just as much reach in terms of being able to, with wingspan, tip loose balls, 50-50 balls, and ultimately turn them into opportunities for new possessions for the Cavaliers. If Nurkic doesn't dictate with this physicality, he doesn't grab this offensive rebound. And if he doesn't grab this offensive rebound, that's a three-point opportunity that the Suns are not going to have, with Devin Booker with a little bit of one dribble escape to the left and knocking down his three. Just watching the way Yusuf Nurkic works is important. He's third in the NBA post-All-Star break in offensive rebounding. He is, I think, eighth in defensive rebounding, and just generally he's top 6, if I'm not mistaken, post-All-Star break. That's a space they need him to continue to operate in. Obviously, it can't solely be where he's being the one that's relied upon to secure rebounds on either side of the floor. Has to be more of a continuity type of effort where everybody's comprehensively tapping in to help on the glass. Nonetheless, just looking at how he's doing some of his dirty work on a consistent basis, getting tip outs and getting just true traditional offensive rebounds like this one, very important to process. And then after that part, I feel like that was the plot of the play. You also want to pay attention to the general action from the Suns. So they go from, obviously, the pitch into the post with Kevin Durant. We're going to see him reading and scanning the defense in triple threat. Ultimately, he's going to rip and go baseline to engage that low defender, like I mentioned, with Evan Mobley loading up. Engages him, reads the defense. Obviously, we got the sync rotation being attached to Yusuf Nurkic in the opposite dunker spot of where Kevin Durant's drive went. We see the baseline skip pass from Kevin Durant. Great pass here. Ultimately, Eric Gordon and the spacing from the Suns. Look at the spacing and how the defense is collapsed. You got 3 bodies in the paint from the Cleveland Cavaliers, only 2 outside of the paint, and look at how spaced and far apart they are. Darius Garland closing out to the corner on Eric Gordon, and then we got Karis LeVert all the way on what it was originally the first side, where Devin Booker is, across the help line. And spaced right in the middle of those two is obviously Royce O'Neal, who's respacing. This is tough and compromising for your defense to make these long-distance, dynamic closeouts and rotations like this on a consistent basis. The Suns were able to keep the Cavaliers in rotation in a lot of different contexts, and we see just that here as it kind of plays to their advantage, creates an opportunity for Royce O'Neal to be optimized, playing to his strengths in general, what he's best at. Either he has an opportunity to shoot if he wants to, he elects to drive this to keep the advantage, collapses the defense even more. You can kind of see things starting to develop here. Ultimately kicks it back to Devin Booker, who's spaced in the opposite slot of where his drive took place. And he's going to be able to obviously play +1 to Kevin Durant. It's a miss, but again, the way they kept the defense just moving and rotating, the dominoes ultimately fell into favor of the Suns by leverage for Yusuf Nurkic for this offensive rebound. And then we see what happens off of that. Best time to knock down the three-pointers and transition and off of offensive rebounds. Three-pointer for Devin Booker. Back to the defensive side of the floor here now, just kind of watching things develop. Solid job defending the 3-player action. Chicago, if you will, out of delay. You get the screen into the handoff. The Suns do a good job with Devin Booker. Sometimes they switch this. Sometimes they get hung up in whether they want to or don't want to switch. Great job being decisive here. Devin Booker chases over. Does a good job in denial as well. See Kevin Durant do a good job as they flow into the handoff after the initial action is taken away. In addition to Devin Booker going from chasing, paying attention at the nail to cut that off. Job well done. Shell left intact. Take away primary action, secondary action. Now the Cavaliers have to scramble and flow into something else. Another solid job here from Devin Booker. He could obviously be a little bit more contained on the ball than he actually is here, but he gets a little bit of support from the nail with Kevin Durant, making him pick up his dribble, Karis LeVert. And this is just a great job here from Kevin Durant. Going from the dig on the nail, finding his man, making this dynamic rotation from digging at the nail. This is not easy. A dig at the nail, and also in real time at full speed. Dig at the nail. His man's respacing around that as he's supposed to in Max Strus, one of the better relocation shooters in the NBA. Create space. Thought he created the opportunity. Kevin Durant's wingspan, in addition to his reaction time in this action defensively, nets him a great job of going from helping and supporting at the nail, closing and recovering, running a three-point shooter off the three-point line, making him deck it, going to the paint. And excuse me, I said Max Strus. This is Georges Niang. Nonetheless, we see him running off a player that's good with relocation and good with three-point shooting, forcing him to deck it and going to two-point range, where he's not the most comfortable, not the most efficient or effective. And job well done makes him put up a soft touch floater. Kevin Durant, after helping Devin Booker, then receives help from Devin Booker as we see him step up to contest the little floater. Doesn't do too much, gets the stop, and now Kevin Durant's able to race his man down the floor. Advantage KD, touchdown Suns. And then again on the defensive side of the floor, they shut down initial action. Now we got the Cavaliers working late in the clock. Screen on ball. I like this from Royce O'Neal. A lot of teams get into these late clock screens with the smalls to try to get a pigeon or to get a Waldo, if you've heard me talk basketball. To get the Waldo, the person that they prefer matchup-wise on ball, to then work into advantage late in the clock. Royce O'Neal, understanding time and situation, does not concede any of that. They get the pass out, they reset action, they get the screen on ball. Eric Gordon's somewhat ready to switch it. You can see this right here. Royce O'Neal says no, he cancels that, says absolutely not. Not letting Donovan Mitchell off the hook. Forces him to have to go up against him, in addition to a great job getting up to the level from Jusuf Nurkic. Good job of presentation, taking away that initial look, and I think he actually deflects this pass as it skips off the boards to Jared Allen. Nonetheless, as he pauses here, we know what's coming on ball. Revert our attention to the low man here. It's Kevin Durant, spaced off of Georges Niang in that weak side corner. So we see action developing. Donovan Mitchell getting into that screen with Jusuf Nurkic at the level. Good job getting into the pocket. Great job on ball from Royce O'Neal. Decent enough job from Jusuf Nurkic. And Kevin Durant, on the flight of the pass, as I pause it here, already peeled in with 2 feet in the paint to take away the short roll and just a general look at the cup from Jared Allen. Now, Jared Allen does a good job with his field, getting off of it quick. But again, because Kevin Durant's there early, this team is really good when he's at that low man position and at the nail, and the same thing vice versa goes when it's Royce O'Neal at one of those two positions. They get one at the point of attack and one as a low man here. Good in process for the Suns. And then they're able to kind of rotate out. The pass is errant from Jared Allen because of the pace and tempo and cadence at which everything is occurring. Georges Niang has to find it after the catch, throws his rhythm off just enough. The Suns get up a solid contest. They ultimately get 2 on this rotation, but this is a great thing to me. It's a barometer. It's a telltale sign of just functionality-wise and process-wise where a team is in terms of how locked in are they on a game-by-game basis. You get multiple players flowing to one specific player, scrambling in rotation. That's a positive thing. That means guys are engaged, they're locked in, and they're bought into what they're trying to do at this moment in time in the game. Job well done for the Suns. They get a stop here. And we also want to make sure we pay attention after the offensive rebound. Not just conceding it, but looking at Kevin Durant and Royce O'Neal. They don't just stop playing after the offensive rebound. Sometimes they and as the Suns in general have a propensity to kind of stop playing after the team gets an offensive rebound. Look at the contest from both of these two. Jared Allen misses it. Now we got Royce O'Neal securing the rebound. The Suns are going to be out on the break. And it's ultimately going to end up being free throws for Devin Booker. This is just good on good process-wise from the Suns. They're in a good space right now, all about sustaining at this point. And then on this rep here, just looking at the Suns kind of getting into a little bit of secondary break action. Devin Booker tries to jail it, doesn't necessarily get the chance to. And now we see Bobo entering the fold here. We're going to rewind this back. He's able to ultimately create something out of nothing. But looking at it from a playoff lens, these are the reps where Bobo's activity and his general decision-making is going to be under a lens. It's going to be under a microscope. Teams are going to continue to concede help off of him. He's going to be a help point for opponents. And he's going to have to be super confident in his decision-making in these scenarios. Devin Booker does a good job navigating in pick and roll, ultimately gets downhill just enough to engage the big, but also keep his man attached to the backside as we see Karis LeVert try to get back into front of the ball. Devin Booker is not allowing him to as he kind of jails him a little bit, gets a paint touch, but you can already see where Georges Niang is. His back is completely turned to Bol, who's in the corner now, to concede help and concede defensive capital to the ball where Devin Booker is. Job well done from him in their defensive process. Look at the distance. He almost has both feet in the paint as Devin Booker gets ready to kick it out to Bol. And then the closeout is not a super urgent one. You can see it's short. He's not running him all the way off the three-point line. He stops 2 feet short of the three-point line. But Bol has to be more concise with if he's going to catch and shoot for one, but also how he wants to attack the closeout. It seems like because of the angle at which Niang is closing out at, he kind of gets caught in limbo a little bit, and ultimately it's not as smooth of a transition from catch and shoot to drive and attack as it normally has been post All-Star break for Bol. Nonetheless, just seeing him be better with the decision-making, these are the reps that matter. These are extremely important. And ultimately, like I mentioned, he's able to create something out of nothing. Getting just a bit of a paint touch and engaging Jared Allen. This is a bit of overhelp from him as Niang has him trapped on the baseline, but also behind the backboard. There's no shot coming up. So he's bailed out a little bit with this overhelp from Jared Allen, conceding him a passing lane. And obviously, we see Eubanks able to finish there. But Bol just being better with his decision-making in this scenario is going to be important. And again, if he's going to be the 9th man or the 8th man in the rotation for the Suns come playoff time, he's going to have to be able to play consistently strong and consistently decisively in these specific contexts where he's helped off of. And then more in the Bol segment here. You're going to see Bradley Beal get an early offense drive here. Gets past Jared Allen, gets a paint touch, but again, not unlike the rep with Devin Booker lastly, looking at Georges Niang again, spaced off of, helped off of Bol, who's in the corner. Already preemptively stepped in as a low man to help put that fire out. He's got no help here, and they're not even trying to concede any extra help to cover up for a Bol who's spaced in this corner right here. And we see, obviously, Bradley Beal doing a great job of getting an early offense paint touch, engaging the extra defender, and passing off of the attention that he's garnering. But again, we're going to be looking at Bol and assessing his decision-making in this specific context. You see the catch and shoot. We see the miss. But again, I just like the decisiveness in it. I think he could have shot this quicker in terms of how he normally releases when he's in catch and shoot in a decisive manner. Nonetheless, I think he made the right decision. He has to start taking these attempts for him to ultimately be able to get from the catch and shoot reps to the catch and pull the defense in and then drive reps. That's where he ultimately wants to get to, where he can start pulling strings and being a dictator in that context, but it starts with him taking those attempts and forcing teams to rotate out to him. And then we're going to see here on this rep, just the Suns kind of getting into it after a timeout, kind of let it flow through a little bit, and then we'll run it back. Nonetheless, another context where Bol is going to be in the plot, much more concise. You can see the difference in the speed at which he goes from catch to shoot when he's decisive. This is all good from him. Also great from Bradley Beal, again, engaging that low man and then passing off of that, creating closeouts with his passes, something he's been consistently doing of late. But as we kind of look past just the Bol portion and Bradley Beal portion, and just the general Suns movement emphasis, we're seeing a lot more of that. See them get into it, like I mentioned, this is after timeout. A bit of a UCLA cut off of Kevin Durant from Bradley Beal. They're going to be just kind of bluff action in addition to the pick set from Kevin Durant. Again, just bluff action. Trying to get to see if the defense is switching, create a matchup advantage. If not, you got your floor, you got your movement to play off of. Job well done from the Cleveland Cavaliers, defending initial action. It was to see it get to the second side. We see Bradley Beal go from using that UCLA screen from Kevin Durant, ultimately to flowing off of a handoff, as he's flowing with speed and with cadence from that opposite side low block off of Drew Eubanks. As we see that happen, paired up with that after the handoff and exchange with Bradley Beal, we see Drew Eubanks then go to set an empty corner pin down here from Drew Eubanks for Kevin Durant. Again, the Cleveland Cavaliers do a great job defending all of this action. For the Suns here, as I continue to emphasize as well, it's all about how quickly they generate new pace, new tempo, new advantages. I just generally play and really just kind of take away those moments where there's a pause in their offense and their flow, and it allows for a defense to work in the advantage rather than the Suns working in the advantage. We see Bradley Beal do a good job. Again, just obviously, firstly, keeping the dribble alive. He had some struggles with that earlier in the season. But then the transition from that dynamic, Drew Eubanks goes to set a screen. Again, the Cavaliers are going to do a good job defending that as well. But Bradley Beal is going to be able to flip this into an advantage because, first of all, one pass away is Kevin Durant. Strus is not going to help off of him. And in addition to that, just a good enough space screen set from Drew Eubanks to allow for Bradley Beal to turn the corner, get downhill. Evan Mobley's somewhat close to the level, but not completely there. So he's able to kind of turn the corner just enough and engage him. Holds two to the ball just enough. And like I said, reading Karis LeVert, who's guarding and helping off of Bol, that's the telltale sign. Low man's got 2 feet in the paint. That means that the pocket pass is not going to be there. Great extra dribble from Bradley Beal just to make sure that he's making this closeout as dynamic as it has to be for Karis LeVert to go from tagging a roller or pinching in on the roll to ultimately trying to close out to that corner. And you see the slight bit of a hiccup between Karis LeVert as well as Donovan Mitchell. He almost looks like he wants to X out with Donovan Mitchell. Neither one of the two fully commits to Bol. They're in limbo. Advantage Suns late in the shot clock with 4 seconds left. Bol is, again, decisive on a catch-and-shoot opportunity, knocks it down. And then looking at the Suns again here on offense, this was ATO as well. One of my favorite calls of the game from them. Getting to this veer action for Kevin Durant. And they obviously don't get a direct shot that comes directly off of the action. But as we kind of slow it down and look at it a little bit more, obviously it's veer action. But what makes it effective after Eubanks sets the screen, the veer part of it being the screen on ball that's directly followed by a screen off ball from that same screener. So you see him set that screen on ball, gets Bradley Beal flowing to the outer third. But the important part in this is knowing that Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen are somewhat close to the level, if not completely at the level, with Bradley Beal. Because that means as Bradley Beal is able to engage Evan Mobley, who's trying to stop him from turning the corner, when we see Drew Eubanks go to setting his screen on the second side, it's usually going to be a 2-on-1 scenario, but because the Cavaliers are switching, it kind of changes up the dynamic just a little bit. Nonetheless, Eubanks does a good job just screening somebody, allowing for Kevin Durant to get a clean catch, and then he's able to play off of a closeout from there. And obviously, he's going to go ahead and attack that closeout, get to the midi, get up 2. But as I slow it down again, and I skip this part, that's on me. Looking at the Suns in their process, they get into it off of a ram screen. So we see the ram screen that's set before action actually takes place. That's why Jarrett Allen's on Kevin Durant rather than Evan Mobley. Nonetheless, you see things flowing into their favor, and this is just a good ATO call for the Suns. Just getting into this action, obviously getting movement with Kevin Durant. He's been coming off a whole lot of middle pin downs and just general action that's keeping him in the middle third of the floor where he can't be double teamed. It's a little bit harder to show help, etc., etc. Advantage Suns, Kevin Durant going up against a mismatch, midi for 2. And then on this rep, just kind of looking at the Suns a little bit more on offense. This one was from sideline out of bounds. I'm going to let it go through slowly here, and then we'll talk about it and let it go full speed after. So, again, like I mentioned, sideline out of bounds. It goes from Eubanks to Devin Booker, and then we see Kevin Durant reject this screen here from Royce O'Neal. But, again, the gravity of Kevin Durant ultimately is going to hold 2 to him as he just cuts to the weak side block. Royce O'Neal is wide open. Suns are working in the advantage in the middle of the shot clock now. And as we kind of see them play through that, watch how it gets back to the side where Devin Booker is, and then watch how the Suns flowing in the action from there. Again, talking about them just generating new action, new pace, new tempo when things kind of break down and things are defended well. Now it flips into an empty corner pick and roll between Eric Gordon, Kevin Durant. You see Evan Mobley already spaced as a low man in the restricted area early. We get the screen. We get the pocket pass here. And with Kevin Durant being the one that's holding the attention of now 3 from the middle of the floor as he's a screener and roller, advantage Suns, look at the spacing. It's great. All of the space between Drew Eubanks cutting back door on the baseline to pull in that extra defender. In addition to them obviously wanting to take away the mid-range pull-up from Kevin Durant. Space to the backside, we got Royce O'Neal wide open, opposite free throw line extended over Eric Gordon. And then obviously top side is Devin Booker. Advantage Suns, there's no wrong decision that Kevin Durant can make. And the defense has no right decision to make as they all collapse on Kevin Durant. Advantage Suns, Royce O'Neal knocks down, I believe, his 4th three-pointer of the game. The Suns just continuing to find these pockets of the game where they can put forth their two-way process and allow for both sides of the ball to play off of one another is important. They can go on multiple runs, not necessarily of the home run variety like this, but enough to push them through the finish line when they're all consistently bought into the process. And they're in a solid space. It's just all about sustaining for them, and it's going to be interesting to see how they apply that against the different types of Western Conference powerhouses that they have lined up down the home stretch of the regular season.